horse circling the arena.
And it's Justine Greer riding Bloomfield Sakuna. A Sakuna, a 9-year-old black warm-blood gelding by Szechuan out of Anook, owned by Karen Hunt, bred by Bloomfield Farm and ridden by Justine, who's from New Gisborne, Victoria.
So if you're just tuning in at home, you're watching the Intermediate 1 CDI class here at Dressage by the Sea. We'd like to thank our sponsor of the class, Rose Dio. So we've had a busy day here of competition at Dressage by the Sea. We'd like to thank our major sponsor, 4CYTE. So as we saw yesterday, this horse of Justine's is a big and very expressive, powerful looking horse. It fills the whole arena.
And so Intermediate 1 test, slightly, more difficult than the Prix St George that we saw them in before. Lateral work of shoulder in, volte and half pass. Again, we saw those yesterday. A rein back of 5 steps and proceeding in collected trot, which she just performed. And generally speaking, this is a nice test. It has quite a good way of flowing, and so as a rider, most of us quite like the Inter 1 as a test.
I prefer it over the Prix St George.
Yeah. So the biggest difference really is in the
full pirouettes.
The canter work, yes, where the full pirouettes and
2 times
changes as well as 3 times changes. So really that's where the test changes in difficulty is through the canter work from the horse's point of view, if you like, and the riders. It doesn't any longer have the walk pirouettes in it, but that was the view of the collected walk straight across from M to H, and then now extended walk down to B and then P.
So I hope you're all judging at home.
I'm sure you're all getting really good now, which means that we can say less because you already know. So we have 3 half passes, 5 metres to either side of the centre line with a flying change at the change of each direction in the canter. And then it's followed by extended canter. And every time I kind of look up off the screen and look back at this horse, I think, gosh, that's a big horse. So he's probably just a fairly normal-sized horse, but he's certainly impressive. Now the 5 3 times changes. And again, just remembering as a rider, it has been a while since I've ridden Prix St George and Inter 1, but I remember that in Prix St George you do 5 4s and then 5 3s, and the 3s used to feel easier than the 4s. And in this test, once you start practicing the 2s, the 3s become difficult in the counting and the twos become the easier one. That was for me. So here a canter pirouette on the centre line in both directions. And again, I always found the right canter pirouette to be harder for placement. Mostly because you make that turn at B and then you have to collect.
And straight away into the pirouette.
So some lovely two-time...
Spoke too soon.
Yeah, well, they were lovely before that. It's not that they weren't. It's just that then there was a mistake. Good transition at C. Now an extended trot. And then down the centre line with a halt at X.
So yesterday we talked quite a bit about the breeding, and this horse is by Szechuan out of Anouk, and Szechuan was a world champion young horse, and Anouk, a very successful breeding mare brought to Australia and has produced many offspring, and she's by Jazz.
And I think we've discovered there's maybe 3 here today. Oh, at this competition, I think there's
out of Anouk.
Out of Anouk, so yeah. Good mummy. We certainly had a couple of mummies that have
done a really
that
good
are
job.
Here, you know, whose progeny are here. Yeah, so
I know there's a lot of people sitting at home that love the breeding side of things, so we'll help you out there as much as we can. So quite a good start to this competition for Justine.
Looking like it's going to be over 66.
And the weather here today is very, very pleasant at Borley Point.
After yesterday when we were very hot and sweaty, today we're enlivened by being cooler.
A little bit cooler. So we still have another whole day tomorrow if you're thinking that you'd like to come and visit. Plenty to see and do here at Willinga Park. So we do have a score. We have a score for Justine Greer on Chinook. I'm just going to...
So a score for Justine Greer and Bloomfield Sakuna of 66.029%. And I didn't get a chance to introduce our ground jury before for this class, which is sponsored by Rose Dio. And sitting at E, Susie Huvenars. Sitting at H, Maria Corleander from Finland. At C, head of the ground jury for this class is Shell Muir. At M, Jane Ventura. And at B, Vittorio Barber from the Philippines. And we have no breeding for it. Its number is 83. Our next competitor in the Intermediate 1 CDI 1-star class is Nicole McGuffin, riding under the banner of New Zealand, even though she resides in Queensland. And Nicole's horse is Harakaido, a 12-year-old warm-blood gelding by Heinrich Heine, out of a mare called Garita. And Nicole is from Mount Nathan in Queensland. So without the help of the wall, as we call it, it's quite hard. It is harder, there's no guide, so you need a decent outside leg in the shoulder in to stop the horse drifting off the line you've chosen. In the shoulder in. In the rein back, always looking for a diagonal pair of legs, stepping backwards, willingly. A halt before it that is immobile and, generally speaking, square.
And this is kind of the reverse, isn't it? They do the half pass first and then the volte, then the shoulder in.
Yes. Again, just keeping the shoulder in on the centre line. That's the point of it. And if you're watching, as we are, you're not getting that same view. Which is, in this test, that's a shame because that's from the side. It's neither here nor there really. But when you're behind the horse or in front of the horse watching that is how it's best to see the three tracks. So collective walk across here, we get the same view as us. So maybe we'd also like its pole to stay up and its throat to be a little more open than where it is. Extended trot and still say I want that nose to stretch more forward so I get the impression at least of it being ahead of the vertical, not behind. Here the half passes 5 metres either side. It's got a nice way of travelling across the ground. Good quality in his canter. For me, I'd be saying that's a bit modest for extended canter. I'd like to go for it.
And a little mistake at the end there. So unlike the Prix St George that they would have ridden yesterday, this has full pirouettes instead of half pirouettes. So that's where the degree of difficulty is a little bit harder. And then that's quite a tight turn to a second pirouette to the right. And you want to see that pirouette centred around the centre line, even on either side, with between 6 and 8 steps. Now this is the other thing that's different from the Prix St George. She's got 2 time changes. And she's executed those quite well.
Yes, the judges agree with Christine and have rewarded him with a couple of 8s for that movement.
Just does have a very uphill way of going in the canter. It's just a shame in the walk that he did get a little bit pole low, like Jill said. For a high mark, he keep his pole up. But a very nice canter tour. Just one mistake in the first lot of changes.
Pushing her over the previous Justine's horse into first place. The scores
that's dressage. It's not perfection, we're just aiming for very good or excellent.
And a score for Nicole McGuffin and Harakaido of 66.735%, which puts her just ahead of, but into first place, just ahead of Justine Greer on Bloomfield Sakuna. And our next competitor is Emma Flavelle Watts, riding Scarlatti Meo VSR. Scarlatti Meo is a 12-year-old Hanoverian gelding, and Emma comes from Queensland as well, I'm thinking.
I've just looked up my program, and Emma's horse is by Sanamore out of World Lady.
So this was the horse that won the Prix St George class yesterday, and we felt that the entire class was pretty strong, with a bunch of lovely horses ridden in a snaffle bridle. Another big horse. So there's shoulder in. This time you're getting a front-on view, so that's great. And you can see that the angle just changes just a little bit. Oh, and then into the circle and into the half pass. And it's got a lovely bending of its joints and elasticity, generally speaking. It makes it impressive going sidewards. Impressive generally. Rein back, and fairly willing about the whole thing. And here he's not sure, he's loss of rhythm there, where the horse starts to think maybe it should be passaging a few strides. This is better on the circle, and now the shoulder in to the left. Again, you're not getting that view. And big trot, medium trot up to walk. And that is an important transition. So this whole collected walk, that transition and the collected walk has a times 2 coefficient, as does the extended walk. It's quite an awkward extended walk to get into because you have that sharp turn from H back to B and then down to P. The benefit of the turn is that it can help the horse get its hind leg underneath it and allow it to relax its back and therefore keep the regularity of the walk. Okay, so a little disagreement
in the turning.
in the turning and onto the half pass.
So this is a little different from the Grand Prix because this isn't the amount of steps. This is actually a distance either side of the centre line.
Okay, so
Cantor's got a little distracted. For lack of a better word.
yes, I think we could say that submission in the canter has now been shown to have some issues today, and he's decided to do any kind of changing that he likes as well.
That's unfortunate.
He's got a wonderful ability to sit in those pirouettes.
So they were achieved.
Yep, so he might have recovered, and he's on for the last bit, but effectively mucked up 3 movements in this test, or even maybe 4.
Definitely has a lot of ability.
So things for Emma to take home with and work on, knowing she's got a very good horse, but some submission issues that she needs to sort.
Ooh, and they've just popped them up on the screen for you to have a look at.
And a score for Emma Flavelle Watts and Scarlatti Meo of 65.912%, and third position from the audience, the spectators, had her on 66.83% and second place. So in first place currently is Nicole McGoffin and Harakaido on 66.735. In second, Justine Greer and Bloomfield Sakuna on 66.02. And in third, Emma Favell-Watts and Scarlatti Mio on 65.912. And our next rider isn't actually due into the arena. Oh no, it should be. Have we got a withdrawal? Had a withdrawal of our next competitors, so just a few minutes to wait till Matthew Lord and Remy Vigneron come in at 4:12. Take this chance to thank our sponsor of the class, Rose Dio, and of course thank 4CYTE for sponsoring the entire show as the major sponsor, and Willinga Park, Dressage by the Sea. Probably it's an opportune moment to thank the event organiser, Kathy Drury-Klein, along with her gorgeous hubby Trevor, who do all the behind-the-scenes work along with an army of volunteers. But Kathy is the main instigator of this event here at Willinga Park. So Matthew Lord and Remy Vigneron have come in, and Remy Vigneron is a 10-year-old chestnut Hanoverian stallion by Viscount out of Remy Love Story, owned and bred by Cheryl O'Brien and ridden by Matthew Lord, who's from Greenbank, Queensland.
So Vigneron from a very successful stud in Queensland called Remy Stud.
So in that shoulder in, it was a bit of swinging at the quarters out at the beginning, and then he got control in the shoulder in. Maintaining quite a good rhythm and position in the half pass. Nearly square halt. Just a little bit low. It's quite often what happens in reinback is the horse kind of what we call pulls down a little bit in the reinback. Good crossing in the half pass left. So medium trot to collected walk. And that was quite fluent in both directions, fairly easy altogether in the half passes in canter.
The whole test has looked quite easy, really.
Yes, he's looking pretty competent in all the areas so far, although we're getting to perhaps the harder end. And, you know, really nicely placed, those 5-3s with the middle one well and truly just over X. That's always the aim. Now you get ready for the pirouette. So here we want to see collecting and sitting down behind. And a bit more self-carriage in that, a change, and that change needs to be done pointing towards B, not next to B or parallel to B. And ditto for the one down there at K, should be pointing towards K, not as you're turning into the corner. We all go, oh dear, there was a mistake, and I was just rewarding himself in my mind for having changed number 4 over X. Then he made some mistakes. Just a little bit down into the halt.
So obviously very popular with the crowd here. The cheer to finish.
And he's trending on the 67.5, and it looks like he might go into first place despite that mistake. So just for the home viewers, if you're still prepared to listen to us tomorrow, you might be sick of us, and that's okay. I just thought I'd give you a quick heads up. It starts at 8 o'clock. We'll be having the CDI Under 25 freestyle to music starting at 8. That's for the early getter-uppers on Sunday. And that's followed by the medium tour freestyle at 9:30. Hold that thought. And a new leader in this competition, the Intermediate 1 CDI class, is Matthew Lord, Remy Vigneron with 67.618%.
And that's
So we were just, so Matthew got a lovely score then, and after the medium tour freestyle, which starts at 9:30, we have the Grand Prix special at 11. We have then the intermediate freestyle, so that'll be these horses again, plus a few from the CDI class at 2 o'clock. And at 4 o'clock, the final class in here will be the CDI Young Y freestyle to music. So a few horses that if you've been watching, you'll see some different ones tomorrow in the freestyles. Might be of interest. Our next competitor in this class is John Thompson, riding under the New Zealand banner, and he's riding MSJ Gatsby. Gatsby is an 8-year-old black gelding by Grey Flannel out of MSJ Fennet Menta, bred by Emma Blundell and owned by Jane Farrell, and ridden by John Thompson from Berrily, New South Wales.
For the breeding buffs out there, MSJ is a very famous stud in the UK, Mount St John, and they have a very successful mare going on the scene at the moment called Freestyle, formerly ridden by Charlotte Dujardin and now ridden by
Catherine Dufour.
Catherine Dufour, lining up very nicely for Paris, I do believe. this is a very light-footed gelding.
It is, and again, for the breeding buffs, I haven't actually seen too many grey flannels.
No.
So, this, looking at this, you'd think, yeah, it's a stallion worthy of consideration in your breeding program, because this is a very attractive, moving, athletic type of horse. And although quite not so tall, and really who needs them to be over 17 hands? So it's just a nice, round type for my liking.
Well, what's not to like, really? And John always does such a great job looking good on the horse. You can see there from behind, oh, you don't have that view, so I won't comment about that. You have a different view to us. But from behind you could see the horse travelling on 3 tracks for those that are interested on what's required in the shoulder end.
And if you're ever interested and you're in the learning stages of things about dressage and you want to know what words mean and so on, it's really easy to look up the requirements for dressage on either the EA website or the FEI website. The rules are all there, and there's judging guidelines and manuals, and you can find the information for requirements of what a medium walk is, what's expected in Piaffe, etc. So they're not just rules and regs, but they're actually the code, if you like.
Plus, we're very lucky to have the live streaming. That's a great way to learn as well, watching the horses competing.
So the threes themselves, nicely done, but that mistake after the extended canter, thankfully, was all in the end, just the flying change in, so it didn't penalise the 3 times. And here a little bit more control of the turning would be good. And that's what he had better in the second pirouette. And expressive, expansive, extended trot. and a balanced halt to finish. So again, you know, everyone has mistakes, it would appear, at various times. And remember, for some of these horses, doing intermediate one, they might be quite new at it. They had a big day yesterday in the heat.
Lots of things come into play.
Lots of things, but, you know, again, he's going to sit on around 66, and you can see that's kind of the score for this class so far, is somewhere around the 66% mark, just up to 67. And they were pretty even yesterday as well, except that our winner from yesterday has not had such a good day today, so possibility of throwing those ribbons around to different people today, or a different order. And a score for John Thompson and MSJ Gatsby of 65.941%, placing him in 4th position. This is a pretty tight class. Everyone's doing it very similarly, and we're looking for the horse to come in to change the positioning a little bit. We have the next horse coming, and that is Sally Rizzuto. And Quarterland. Quarterland is an 11-year-old chestnut Holsteiner gelding by quarterback out of Holstein Park, Lieberly. It's owned by Sally Rizzuto and Vicky Newham, and it was bred by Holstein Park. And Sally comes from Glenorrhy in New South Wales.
That's the view we were talking about. That gives you a good...
That's the one. So, as it happens with each horse, if you're a diehard here, you are looking in that shoulder in coming towards you.
Being on 3 tracks.
Being on the 3 tracks. So remember, 1 track made by the outside hind leg, the middle track by the diagonal of the inside hind leg, outside foreleg, and then the inside foreleg all by itself.
On another track.
Inwards on the line of that you've chosen. So shoulder in. And not quarters out. And that's what this second, well, that one shows you at the start as well. So here we try and see again, and to a degree...
You are allowed to have 3.5
yes, you
tracks, just not 4.
Just not 4, but it is quite hard to, you know, there are wherever it's placed, it's a judgment from a distance always. It's very rare you're right behind it, except for in this test, sitting at sea. Mostly they're on the sideline.
And they're still not quite directly behind it on the side.
That's right. So it's the one big view. And here collected walk, Another very good view of collected walk because you don't have the fence in front of you.
And you see the difference to the extended walk there
Looking
quite clearly.
That's right, and you're looking for that V. We talked about that yesterday between the hind leg and the foreleg on the same side. They should look like they make a V where they meet.
And walk with purpose.
And walk with purpose.
And then it's directly, it's a few strides of collected walk and directly into canter.
Did I see something there? What was I?
Did you see something?
Yes, I don't know. In that departure. Maybe not? Okay. I just blinked.
So lovely fluid counter change of hand, as sometimes we call it, or half passes. It does paint a very uphill picture going on that short side.
Every so often he just does these slightly odd
Like
sort of moments.
wiggly, he looks
wiggly and just a misplacement every so often of a foot, like he did in the extended canter.
Just takes your...
And I'm just wondering what I'm seeing some of the time there. And that to me is stepping out too much at the beginning of that pirouette. And see there, she wasn't well placed. The flying change occurred after B. She's run out of a little bit of bend and...
It almost crossed that inside hind across the outside one. That's a bit of a balance issue. But she's achieved those, ticked that box. 7s and 7.5s across the board. But the overall impression of harmony between the horse and rider.
Just wait for the score and then, because I don't hurt that. And a score for Sally Rizzuto and Quarterland of 65.588%, placing her in 6th place. Matthew Lord still out in front with Remy Vigneron on 67.618%. There's a short break until 4:51. So if you'd like to stretch your legs for a moment, visit the trade stands, and then come back for Tanisha Ryan and Jembre Rattle and Hum at 4:51.
Shepherd are proudly powering Willinga Park through holistic electrical solutions. Our experienced team are here to assist with all facets of your electrical needs and can design, build, commission and maintain your electrical assets. From low voltage, high voltage, critical supplies and even off-grid installations, we ensure that when you need reliable power, you can rely on Shepherds. Let's get connected.
All right, we're approaching time for the next competitor to come into the arena. So if you can all take your seats. This intermediate one CDI 1-star class is sponsored by Rose Dio. We have everyone. Hopefully everyone's comfortable. Ready? And here is our next competitor. And it's Tanisha Ryan, riding Gembray Rattle and Hum. Rattle and Hum is a 13-year-old chestnut Hanoverian gelding by Riverside out of Gembray Sophie, bred by Gembray Warmbloods and owned and ridden by Tanisha Ryan, who's from Darks Forest in New South Wales. So Tanisha has got a couple of horses that she's, well, at least a couple, actually more. I think she had a horse in the young horse class as well today. We saw her earlier in the under 25s Grand Prix, and now this horse here in the intermediate one. So a busy young lady. Oh dear, was that the arena edge?
No, I think he may have kicked at her leg and then got the marker.
Oh, right, because the judge's desk is right in front, so I can't really see that spot.
It did go flying.
Uh-huh.
So he just had a little moment there where he said, I don't really want to go do what I'm told. I think that woke the judges up. I know it woke me up.
We're all going, oh, dear. So it's been a big day, and it's been a big series of days. And also for the horses. So, you know, sometimes by this point, even though may have another day to go, the horses,
a little grumpy.
They can be getting a little grumpy. They've been in the boxes.
I'm a little grumpy sometimes after 3 days of dressage. As lovely as it is here at Willinga Park, it's really like a holiday coming down here. And the weather today has been absolutely perfect for riding. I've been riding my chair in the commentator's box, or the announcer's box.
So the walk, not really supple and over the back enough in either walk. It did maintain the regularity, so that was, you know, something, but it wasn't prepared to really get into it and swing along. And a little loss of control there in the second half pass in canter at the beginning. Better on the next change. And she's made an error, of course, which she knows. And on she goes. Well, and there was a mistake at the end of the threes.
So Tanisha does do a really good job, but this horse today is obviously having a little bit of a moment and, my opinion, just struggling a little bit to lower and sit and carry the weight on his hind legs in the canter, which makes all this canter tour quite difficult, and it may be because he's a little distracted.
So the pirouette clearly not anywhere near the centre line. She still managed to keep the canter around it, but it's, it's not going to score well, both for accuracy but also just within itself. It lacked the preparation that she needed.
He's definitely making her work for it today.
Now that he's kicked that, whatever he did, and
He's
he gave himself a fright, he's now decided to shy at it. I can't see what
it's probably laying down.
What it's doing, but it's obviously a monster now. And we all know about monsters when we're riding. So he's got a monster, and they can't change it whilst in the middle of the test. That's just a rule. And really, there's no one to go and rush and change it anyway. So she's carried on, and the score will not be something she's pleased with. But in the end,
sometimes you do have to push on.
You just keep going, and and maybe you feel like you have to explain yourself later. But reality is, it doesn't matter. She made him keep going. And if she's back in here tomorrow for the freestyle, which she quite possibly is, or would have been, had she got a better score, she would have made him more confident once again. Our next competitor is Charlie Welsh, riding Dante Quando.
Dante Quando is a black 10-year-old stallion by Dante Waltino, and he's owned by Willinga Park.
So good ground cover in the extended trot.
And we have that lovely view front on the screen.
And that's, so you can see sometimes that's a little bit what we call a bit wider. So she needed a little bit more outside leg to just stop the hind leg, the hind quarters slipping out. But it maintains this lovely trot. So they won't kill it by any means. A little hesitancy in establishing both the halt and the rein back, but then it was nicely done. And nice on the circle, showing nice bend. And again, not really consistently on the 3 tracks, a bit to 4, a bit back to 3. But again, it's scoring 7s. And that comes because the horse has a great way of trotting and suppleness about him. Now it's a big collected walk, so has it got a bigger extended walk? It's certainly got over track, you can see that from that angle.
I think it does.
And then you're watching there as she picks up the reins and gets ready to canter on at P. And there was a couple of differences of opinion about the collected walk, so that's quite interesting in that judging. I think two judges thought it was not collected enough, or that it had a regularity issue. I didn't see that, but that's my guess. Extended canter. It's got a great canter. I think she could have risked that a little bit more, but it was still a good try. 3 times.
And she got them.
She got that. So she's keeping the score up. So here, the preparation for the pirouette.
It definitely has a lot of ability, this horse.
Yep. Bit of a curved line there instead of pointing at B for the change.
And a shame.
Yeah.
Just got a little bit tangled by the swinging.
Yeah, it did. And that's probably where it has to be quick, because it's got such a big canter and it has to be quicker to think about the change. And so it was trying to some degree, make it easier by swinging, which is what they're doing.
And then got a bit of a tangle.
And then got tangled and said, oh, I can't get them back underneath me for the next one.
But they're back to a fairly good score for the extended trot.
Yeah, so it's still got a chance of pushing the mark up a little further, because it is such a nice horse. So general impression
Beautiful.
is... But general impression isn't, of course, just how beautiful a horse is.
No, it's the way it goes. And
it's all those things, but still, it's
impressive.
a nice horse.
And has a nice way of going and posture and all of those things.
A score for Charlie Welsh and Dante Quando of 67.088%, placing her into second position. Next competitor in the CDI one-star intermediate class, Victoria Luxford, riding Revelwood Animation. Animation is an 11-year-old bay Hanoverian mare by Ampere out of Richmead, Lara, bred by originally Amanda Shoebridge and now owned by Victoria Luxford and ridden by Victoria, who hails from Sydney. So I'm just chatting to Christine here and saying that the class has had a little turnaround in positions today from yesterday. Still really close together, as they really were yesterday. But mistakes have changed the results, or improved the result, or lack of mistakes has improved the results. So shoulder in right here, for me, needing more bending, more suppleness. A little bit too much on 4 tracks. And again, in this half pass, I want more bending and position to the right. And I'd say that's a pretty good halt. And it was 5 steps. But there may have been a little bit of dragging of the feet in that, which has kept the mark a little bit lower. And here more supple in the back, so it has a better cadence in its trot. And fairly prompt into canter with just maybe a hint of an idea that quarters came in. So in that transition, try to position the horse a little bit shoulder fore before you set off into canter, because it's judged on its straightness, amongst other things. But and that's a good canter across the diagonal in extension. Good ground cover. The uphill tendency. Oh.
I was just about to say what that perfect middle change over X, and then a mistake. Just a mistake in the sequence of the strides for those of you at home wondering what the mistake was.
A neat canter pirouette.
And a good change on the straight. And I'd have to say that they're some of the better pirouettes we've seen as far as positioning and execution for this test. See, the marks aren't getting so high, and I may be a little suspicious that it could have something to do with the mouth being open. That was just my humble opinion, that does come into play. Definitely very expressive in the extended trot. She did get an 8 for the extended trot off one of the judges.
And the score for Victoria Luxford and Revelwood Animation of 66.647%, and placing her into 4th position. There are still 3 competitors left in this class, and circling now is Georgina Foote riding Zoe. Zoe is a 12-year-old bay Hanoverian mare.
Conferred with my book, and this horse is by Zach, out of a mare called Duchess, and we presume that it's Blue Horse Zach, and Jill feels in her waters that she's from Victoria, because we're a little bit poor on the information in front of us.
For which we apologise. So if anyone wants to tell us anything, once again,
we'd love all the help.
Feel free. So
we are slightly delirious by day 3 of being in the commentary box. So feel free to message us or text us any helpful tips. So Georgia trending along quite well at the beginning of this test. On 67 or 67.5, nearly 60.
Why has it gone on me like that? Stupid thing. Oh, stupid thing. Oh, stupid thing. Copy. And now I'm having screen issues so we'll just watch the horse instead. So this is a medium trot, and you know it's got a lovely expansive trot. It's long-legged. Oh, but the transition, and she tried to make that crisp, and I give her full credit for that. But I'm not saying it didn't come off, but there was just a hobble a little bit behind as it tried to come into walk. But that's the point of that. It's medium trot into collected walk. Looks like somebody's given us an answer. And yes, he is by Blue Horse Zach, or she, and yes, Georgia Foote's from Victoria. So thank you so much, Kate.
It really is a very lovely style of horse. And Blue Horse Zach was absolutely one of my favourite horses to watch. I loved him, and I just loved the breeding.
And he really had longevity in his competition career. I think it was only just recently maybe that he's retired. They had a thing for him at one of those shows, I seem to remember. I think Nana Merrill was riding him. Is that right? I think so. After a few others as well. Terrific horse.
And did produce these, or has still produced these horses with this very uphill hill tendency, which we can see here in Zoe.
Yep, and Zoe is ticking along and is currently in the lead compared to everybody else, so let's hope she continues mistake-free. A little bit of trouble here in the Canterbury. You see the head nodding and the horse is using its head to keep its balance or to get itself to turn. And on this side it says, no, I can do this more easily. And as we know, most horses have a good and a bad or a more difficult side. And probably most riders as well. We always talk about the horse, but of course the rider doesn't have to be as coordinated either in one side or one leg's not working as well.
And it is a sport where we use both sides of our body, or we should try to use both sides of our body equally. And most of us are, are left-handed or right-handed. All of these things come into play when you're thinking about being an athlete riding a horse. The horse is an athlete, but the rider is also an athlete.
So she's a happy rider, and I think that will keep her, or put her into first place for just a test that actually didn't have any mistakes. Once again, they're a very close group of horses, and the mistakes
make a big difference.
Are going to be the differenting. There's the word, it's gone. Make the difference. That's a much better way of saying it.
The next horse entering the area is Lizzie Wilson Fellows and Let's Chamois. Let's Chamois is a 9-year-old chestnut mare by Chamois and is owned by Lizzie Wilson Fellows and bred by Lizzie Wilson Fellows. And Lizzie Wilson Fellows is from Williamtown, New South Wales.
And a score for Georgina Foote and Zoe of 67.824% and putting her in first place currently.
So I have been following this mare on her career, and it's because it's by a stallion that I really like, Chamois.
And that's a lovely, you're getting the side-on view, it's a lovely extension. And the judge at E, who had one of the best views of that, like you, the side-on view, agreed that it was worth an 8. by the judge at C, perhaps only a 6.5 because she might have liked the back legs a little bit further under and pushing. And the rein-back, it's a little bit mouthy. More crossing in that half pass needed. Just generally in the trot work, when it's not extending, I want to see it look softer and more supple over the back. And that was a nice transition to collected walk.
Let's see what the judges think. 7s and 7.5s across the board for the medium trot. And some of them have rewarded their transition with a 7, which is quite a good score for a transition today.
Okay, and then we all saw that resistance into the canter. But not marked too harshly by the judges, so that's good. And here again, a little bit more sidewards in the half passes would be good for the 5 metre width.
This is one of the younger horses in this class. She's only a 9-year-old. Lizzie is quite clever at bringing these horses along and exposing them to these big shows. So she does bring a tribe of horses and competes them in the young horse classes and normally does quite well.
And here she's got herself offline a little bit. And so pointing back towards B and now having to kind of turn quicker.
It's getting a little bit...
Oh dear. And, you know, that's...
expensive.
That's kind of a major resistance, I think. That's all I could call that. And so consequently the pirouette, which is ×2, gets some low scores.
So that was a shame for Lizzie, but she continued on and did get some nice scores towards the end of the test.
And has rewarded her horse, you know, on this holding the halt a little bit and just making the horse wait. Again, it's good practice to do that, not to rush away.
Hopefully we see her tomorrow in the freestyle.
And see, walking around, making use of the arena. Again, it's a really...
clever riding.
Clever riding. No need to rush out of the arena. It's your time. let
And good
that-
for the horse's confidence.
Good for the horse, and deal with a bit of patting. And a score of 62.882% for Lizzie Wilson Fellows and Let's Charmeur. Our final competitor for this intermediate one, CDI 1-star class, sponsored by Rose Dio, is John Thompson, riding Sugarloaf Amnesty. Amnesty is a bay mare, warm blood mare by Ampere out of Anouk, owned by Celeste Amesdros and ridden by John Thompson from Berrily, New South Wales, but riding for New Zealand.
So, to the viewers at home, this is one of the other horses in the competition that's out of that mare, Anouk. So we knew there were a few here. There's actually two in this competition, this one being by Ampere. And the two horses quite different types. If John can give us at 70% to finish, I'd
That's
like that.
right. That's right. And we've got two very close together at the top on 67, three on 67, but with Georgina, Foot and Zoe in front currently. Now that counts as a wide shoulder in.
And the line is changing a little bit in that.
The ones on the side may not have seen it. But as I say, they're fairly forgiving of some of these things. And I rather wish, training sense that they weren't as forgiving, because he needs to have control of the hindquarters. And that's what that's proving. I can see some tilting of the head in the half pass left.
Yeah, it's not really shoulder in my opinion.
You see on this one, he didn't really establish enough of 3 tracks. So that's what I mean about being strict doesn't go astray.
The mare does have an uphill tendency. She looks uphill and keeps a fairly good rhythm in the trot. So they're things that the judges are probably rewarding.
So quite a lot of sidewards in his half passes in canter. Probably beyond the 5 metre mark. It doesn't have such a big ground covering canter.
But they were correct.
But they were correct and balanced. And here we've got the canter pirouette coming. It's been, let's face it, important in the results of this class.
Having a coefficient of 2.
Again, showing some lack of self-carriage in the second pirouette.
Again, correct. Giving him slightly higher mark, I think, than the previous. No, he got 7s for those two.
So it's going to be a very tight result in this test, and realistically we did feel yesterday they were all a bunch of nice horses, and he may go into first place here, he may not, not sure. Didn't make any glaring mistakes. 67.8 is the score to beat, or 824. And that was our final competitor in this class. And John Thompson on Sugarloaf Amnesty has scored 67.765%, placing him into second position, which means Georgina Foote, riding Zoe, has won the class with 67.824%. John Thompson, Sugarloaf Amnesty, second, 67.76%. Third, Matthew Lord, Remy Vigneron, 67.618. Fourth, Charlie Welsh, Dante Quando, 67.088. Fifth, Nicole McGoffin and Harakaido, 66.735. Congratulations, very tight class. Well done all the riders, and thank you very much to our judging panel, and thank you for our spectators. Safe travels home, and hopefully we'll see some of you here back tomorrow, starting at 8 a.m.
And thank you to Jill Rickard.
And thank you to my very good co-host here, Christine Crawford.